Welcome, Creepy Conversations. We almost forgot to welcome you guys. Why am I singing?
Oh, jeez. I'm Nikki and we're a hot mess.
I'm Kalai and I'm hungry. Oh, by the way, if you guys haven't listened to our shorty, check it out because we're going to be talking about the Leopleurodon from Charlie.
Oh my god, I hope our listeners are not too young and not too old to know who Charlie the unicorn is and what a Leopleurodon is.
Yeah. Also, we didn't realize that it looked like a Leopleurodon while we were recording, so
There is no mention of that in that episode.
we're just trying to, I don't even know.
It's clickbait and I hope it's working.
But what's up, you guys? How are you guys doing? How are your countries doing? Is COVID still existing in the future? Because this is going to be released in the future.
I hope COVID's dead by then. I swear. I've had enough of this.
I'm so tired. I'm so tired of COVID.
Guys, let's work to get this to stop. I haven't seen family and friends for almost 2 years now.
Yeah. And we're tired.
We're just done.
Anyway, why I opened up with that, because a lot of countries are opening up again. And
yes.
I feel like by the time this episode is released, I'm pretty sure countries are welcoming tourists, I think. And
I'm crossing
a
fingers.
place you do not want to tour is North Korea.
Are we even allowed to go there, though?
Yeah. There's a viral video right now of like a group of tourists touring North Korea.
How is that? What? Are they open?
Yeah, they're open for tourism. Actually, their leader doesn't... he believes in COVID, but he doesn't believe in the vaccines. And I just read it on the news. They was like, we're going to fight COVID Korean style. So
what does that even mean? Survival of the fittest.
When I think of Korean style, it's like the really good chicken. So is that what he means by it? I don't know.
They're gonna mukbang their way through COVID.
What does that mean? But yeah, the video that I saw was, I don't know if it's from TikTok or Twitter, but I saw the video on Instagram, and they're like a group touring North Korea, and then a man from the group decided to he decided to wander off. What is wrong with me? I said it twice because I was like, this is wrong. I gotta say it again. And I said it again.
The same way.
Fuck. I'm sorry. Wander off. But he was still like fairly close. You could still see him. He wasn't really like that far, but I think the instructions are like to stay within the group. And then the tour guide, or like the North Korean historian, she was the one with like a microphone, the Britney Spears style.
Oh my god, the action you did when you said microphone reminds me of the TikTok tiny microphones like this, wherein you just pinch. I wasn't thinking that you were referring to the Britney Spears.
Like the Britney Spears. She was Britney Spearsing it, and then she called like the dude that was wandering off. I almost said wander again. Stop me! But yeah, and then he asked for his name, and then the dude answered the tour guide in like a mocking tone because his name was Andre, and then he said it as Andre. Like he was, I can't even follow it.
Russian, Ukrainian?
No, he was mocking like the Korean accent. I can't follow it, so that's why it sounded Russian, because I don't know how to do it. But he said it in like a mocking tone, like he was mocking the accent, and like you could tell that the tour guide, or like the North Korean lady that was probably historian, wasn't happy, but they just laughed. And then there was another footage of like the same group in which the tour guide or like the North Korean historian was like explaining how North Korea defeated America, but like it was in like North Korea's narrative. It wasn't really like a fair narrative. And someone in the group, and I think it was the person holding the camera, like laughed at the tour guide, like how she was explaining it. And you could see in the tour guide's face that she wasn't, or I don't know if she's a tour guide. She looked like a historian because, you know, she had the Britney Spears thing. You could see it in her face that she wasn't pleased. Like, she didn't really say anything, but you could see it in her face. And I got nervous, and I thought, like, I was the only one.
How can
that
you
had
be
that
so
reaction.
ballsy in that country?
Right?
Like, the thought of you being there is already a risk, and for you to be acting this way is just a whole level of woo.
Yeah.
That's obnoxious.
Exactly. And I checked the comments, and people were leaving comments like, rest in peace, dude. Like, rest in peace to whoever left. Like, and plenty of people kept mentioning the name Otto Warmbier. And I decided to look him up because it was like literally the first time that I've heard of his name. And like, holy shit. This is why the U.S. government is advising against touring North Korea because of that reason. So this week, we will be covering the mysterious death of Otto Warmbier. Sources for this episode is GQ Magazine, ABC News, and Wikipedia. So Otto Frederick Warmbier was the eldest of Cynthia and Fred Warmbier, and he was raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. He attended Wyoming High School, where he was considered popular and kind of smart. He was also a math whiz, and he was a gifted soccer player and swimmer, and he was also the prom king, so he was like well liked in his school. And he graduated in 2013 as a salutatorian, and he was even asked by his school to give the graduation speech. He then went to University of Virginia in a scholarship because he was smart, and where he was pursuing a double major degree in commerce and economics. And then he also did a foreign exchange at London School of Economics, where his minor was global sustainability. He was known to be sweet, welcoming, and brainy, and he was very into learning other cultures. So overall, he sounds like a solid guy. Otto was scheduled to undertake a study abroad program in Hong Kong in early 2016, and while he was preparing for his time abroad, he came across some information about a tour that will allow him to visit North Korea, and it was with Young Pioneers Tours. They are a China-based budget tour operation, and their slogan is destinations your mother would rather you stay away from. And to be honest, I was like, damn, I feel like if I saw an ad of this tour,
I think I'd be the perfect target audience for that.
Me too.
Because I'd be like, yes.
Yes.
Where do I sign up?
Let me check out. Where do you guys go?
It's like, shut up and take my money.
That was like, it is a great slogan for people like us, because we'd be like, yes.
We're into crazy shit.
In their ads, they claimed that North Korea is a safe place to go to and that they take care of their tourists. So I think that's why Otto was attracted to the whole North Korean package deal of visiting there.
But it makes sense too, because the fact that North Korea is kind of closed off to the rest of the world, it gets you curious as well. And for you to have a chance to experience it, you'd be like, yeah, sure, where do I sign up?
Exactly. Not me, though, but like, I understand. I feel like it would be, if I would come across their ad, I would expect like somewhere in Russia or something. Like, I wouldn't be expecting to go to North Korea.
True.
Like, I understand why people are curious, but yeah. At that time, the U.S. State Department until now, actually, they have an advisory in place against traveling to North Korea, because there, Americans would be beyond the American government's power to directly help them, because they don't have a great relationship with North Korea. So Otto even told his friends. They supported him in his decision to visit North Korea. His parents weren't thrilled, but they also knew him and they trusted him that he wouldn't get into trouble. So they eventually said yes. So he decided to visit North Korea over the New Year period before he went to Hong Kong. So prior to visiting North Korea, Young Pioneers Tours informed its tourists. They usually do that. They inform the people that want to join that there are places that they can't go and there are some things that they can't do in North Korea. Obviously, that's why they're called the hermit country, or like the hermit something, right?
I didn't even know that.
Oh, they're called like the hermit country, I think, because they're closed off and like you can't do a lot of stuff there. Everything's very secretive. They're also informed. Yeah, they're not allowed to like vandalize things or anything that has the North Korean leader on it, or take anything that has the North Korean leader on it, or like his predecessors, like his father and his great-grandfather. They're not allowed to like get anything with their faces. So shortly after Christmas 2015, Otto went to Beijing to meet with the Young Pioneers tour guide and his group, a mix of Canadians, Australians, Europeans, and at least one American. And then they boarded an old Soviet jet to Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea. And once they reached there, the Border Patrol confiscated cameras and flicked through each file on their smartphones to make sure no outsider was smuggling in subversive materials. But I think they were able to bring like a camera that was like approved, because there are footages of Otto in North Korea, while he was on tour. So I don't know if it was through a smartphone camera or if it was like an actual camera. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he had footages there. They stayed at Yanggakdo Hotel. It's North Korea's first luxury hotel. Tourists don't usually stay there, but Young Pioneers Tours had a deal with the hotel, and that's where they bring their guests. They were able to like have a really good deal with the hotel. Usually it's delegates, journalists, and government officials that are only allowed to stay there. So Young Pioneers Tours they're like the first, and I think they're the only like tour group that can stay in that hotel. Yeah. The hotel has 47 stories. It is a tower. It's furnished with 5 restaurants, 1 that revolves. It has a bar, a sauna, a massage parlor, and a bowling alley. So it really is like a regular hotel, like, you know.
It's funny how we try to depict this as a normal hotel, as if it's in North Korea, it would be something else.
Yeah, because there's like this like perception. I had the perception that there aren't hotels in North Korea, like there aren't bowling alleys in North Korea. I thought that was. I'm sorry. Now I know. You know. But there's a place in that hotel that is known as like the forbidden place. One of like the most forbidden places in North Korea, and it's the forbidden 5th floor. In the elevator, it goes from 4th floor to 6th floor. You can't press a button to get to the 5th floor. And they just say that it's like for crew only, and they can only access it through the staircase, obviously. There is an article in BBC about a man named Calvin Sun. He's a doctor that he has footages of them going to the forbidden 5th floor, and it is wild. It's not like scary or anything. There aren't any dungeons there, but it's very different from the entire hotel. They are allowed, though, to go anywhere else. They're free to go anywhere else in the whole hotel except for the 5th floor. So I feel like that's a very generous thing for like the hotel to be like, you can go anywhere, just don't go to the 5th floor. Yeah,
I hate it
No,
when they do that, because then you'd get more curious and be like, what is in the 5th floor? I need to go there.
exactly. Another thing, the hotel is known as the Alcatraz of Fun because it's on its own island. Like, it's away from, like,
That's interesting.
yeah, that's why it's known as Alcatraz. I don't know why they would nickname themselves Alcatraz of Fun. It's like,
I know, right?
you guys know that Alcatraz is a famous, like, prison, right? You can't just put of fun and expect people to, like, you know, not be curious.
Exactly. No, it's such it sounds like it's mocking the place.
Yeah. It makes you think that there is an actual dungeon in the 5th floor if
Who
you name it
knows?
Alcatraz of Fun. But there isn't. In the footage, there it's just a lot of propaganda posters on the walls. Yeah, that's why it's like completely off limits, because I think they're afraid that it might get vandalized and stuff. So yeah, back to Otto. During the trip, he was paired with Danny Grattan. He was a British member of the tour, of the Young Pioneers tour. He was also the only other single guy in the group, so that's why they were paired together. Danny said that he got along really well with Otto. Like, they clicked right away and they were able to, like, bond right away. And he said that Otto seemed like an easygoing guy, and yeah, he had like a lot of positive things to say for Otto. Early on in Pyongyang, Otto and the other young pioneers were led aboard the USS Pueblo, an American Navy spy ship that had been caught by the North Koreans in 1968. Now it's a tourist attraction in North Korea. And while they toured the ship, the young pioneers were regaled by a North Korean historian who told their group about the capturing of the ship from what they call the imperial enemy. So they mean America.
America. What did I say?
America.
I had a stroke.
We are broken today. The 82 American sailors were captured on the Pueblo. They were beaten and starved for 11 months before they were finally released. Hearing this kind of discomposed Otto, like, it definitely made him feel unwelcome. Like, he was just expecting to see, like, the culture and, like, see how the people were living. He didn't really expect, like, you know,
anti-American sentiments.
Yeah. Exactly. The words out of my mouth. But Danny and his tour mates, like, kind of helped him laugh off his dark realization. And they had even nicknamed him Imperial Enemy. And they would say things like, "Hey, Imperial Enemy, want to eat? Want another beer?" Like, why?
Okay.
You're in North Korea. You should not do that.
I get the inside joke, because I feel like that's
Yeah.
something we would do, but I don't think it's something you should say out loud in that place.
Yes, exactly. Do it when you're not in the country anymore. Then that would be very funny.
Or just like
But
make eye contact, do the telepathic thing, whatever. But okay, they're ballsy.
yeah. Another thing that Otto had an issue with was the food. His tour group didn't really say that he was complaining. Like, they really didn't detail how he expressed his dislike for the food, but they did say that he was unhappy, and that was the moment that they realized that this tour was something that was in over Otto's head. So they thought that it was probably too much for him. And But they were still able to go through the tour without any issues. Like I mentioned earlier, they have videos and pictures of the tour. And Otto looked like he really did seem to enjoy himself, except for one picture where Otto was like kind of phased. But the other videos and pictures, he was like laughing. And yeah, there's even like a footage of him posing with like a North Korean in Hangul, I think that's the term, their dress.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I said the wrong name. But yeah, the dress.
I also can't correct you because I don't know.
We don't know things, sorry. And he had footage with him with the North Korean kids, and they were like throwing snowballs at the camera and like, you know, posing for pictures. On New Year's Eve, the young pioneers went drinking at a fancy bar in the restaurant. Though according to Danny, no one got drunk. There are reports that say that they were drunk, but according to Danny, no one got like really drunk. Like, it was just like tipsy. And then after the bar, they gathered in Pyongyang's main square along with other tourists and North Koreans. There were footage of their group celebrating, and the place was packed. Like, there were so many people. It was like the Lollapalooza concert. Like,
what?
Yeah, people were like really packed. And then they watched the fireworks and celebrated the final hours of the New Year's Eve. Some young pioneers headed to the bar, and Danny went bowling with like some of his tour mates, and they kind of lost track of Otto. Like, you don't really, when you're on tour, you just want to do stuff on your own if you're allowed to. So, you know, he didn't really care where Otto went.
And plus, I don't think that's something you would think of while you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, that's true. He just thought that Otto was like with the other young pioneers. And yeah, so it was only later that he would wonder, like after the whole thing, like he wondered where Otto was, because there was like a 2-hour window that they couldn't account for Otto. When Danny returned to his room and Otto's room, because they shared a room, around 4:30 a.m. on January 1, Otto was already asleep. So the following morning at the airport, because they were supposed to leave, and they were the last young pioneers to present their passports. So they were there side by side at the single desk at the... I don't think it's the immigration, because they never mentioned the immigration, but I feel like it's where they check your passports. Danny noticed that the officers were like intently scrutinizing their documents. Like, they were, unlike the others, they were taking a longer time, and they were like going through their stuff.
Both of them, or just for Otto?
Both of them. And then he saw 2 soldiers that marched up to them, and then one tapped Otto on the shoulder. And then Danny just thought that the authorities just wanted to give him a hard time, to give Otto a hard time, because they didn't really care for Danny. Like, they didn't ask him to like leave with him. And when they took Otto away, Danny even jokingly said, "Well, that's the last we'll ever see of you." And then Otto laughed, and then he let himself be led away outside the wooden doors, out of the check-in area. And they really thought that he was just going to come back because he was American and he didn't do anything, because they kind of saw Otto as like someone who would really follow the rules. Like, that's what they thought of him. The Young Pioneers tour waited for him for a while, and when the group's plane was about to leave the terminal, an announcement came abroad that the Korean official said that Otto is very sick and he has been taken to the hospital. So they decided to leave the country. Their whole group were able to leave the country without incident. According to a Young Pioneer spokesman, none of its employees had direct contact with Otto after he was escorted away, and they did try to like find out what happened to him. They kept calling the North Korean officials, but they couldn't get any word from North Korea. So that's why they had to call America and inform them that something had happened. Because at that time, they just thought that he was sick, because that's what they said. So they didn't really know that he was already arrested. Eventually...
Wait, hold up. It's so sudden, though. Because
Exactly.
they see him, he's all normal and stuff, and just when the plane is about to leave, or the jet, whatever, they say he's sick. If I were
Exactly.
Danny, I wouldn't believe that shit.
I think they were suspecting that the officials were lying.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
they
there's
couldn't
not
really
much you
do
can
anything.
That's true.
Yeah, they couldn't really do anything. So they kind of like just thought that Otto was going to return. Like they didn't really, know what was going to happen. So North Korean state-run Korean Central News Agency, KCNA, initially announced that Warmbier, or Otto, had been detained for a hostile act against the state, without specifying further details. There was an interview by a CIA intelligence in America. She was like a specialist for like the North Korean laws, and she said that if they say it's a hostile act against the state, it could be anything from like theft, from vandalism, from like an American saying something that the North Koreans don't agree with. For them, that like what he said seemed anti-North Korean. So it could be anything. It's like a wide range of shit for them.
Wow. That's unfair, though, because there's no specific definition as to what that is. So
Yeah.
they can just make up whatever and then say, oh, that's what they did.
Yes. Wait till later. So North Korea refused to elaborate on the precise nature of what he did wrong for 6 weeks. All young pioneer tours could say that there had been an incident at the Yanggakdo Hotel, but they themselves don't know what the incident is. Like they were just also informed by like North Korea that there was an incident, so they don't really know. I'm repeating myself. What is wrong with me? So yeah, on February 29, 2016, the world finally saw Otto again. He was on TV. He was reading from a prepared statement, and it was a confession that, quote unquote, confession. He confessed that he had attempted to steal a propaganda poster from a restricted staff only area on the second floor of the Yanggakdo Hotel to take home. The poster said in Korean, "Let's arm ourselves strongly with Kim Jong-il's patriotism." That's what the poster that he, quote unquote, stole. So damaging or stealing items with the name or image of a North Korean leader is considered a serious crime by the North Korean government, as I mentioned earlier. Otto would then read from a handwritten script that he had put on his quietest boots, best for sneaking, and attempted the theft at the prompting of a local Methodist church, a university secret society, and the American administration, to harm the work ethic and motivation of the Korean people and to bring home a trophy. And then he had also, quote unquote, confessed to steal the poster at the behest of the Z Society, which was like apparently a secret society at the University of Virginia that he had wished to join. And he also said that he was allied with this Central Intelligence Agency, or the CIA. And what his confession, I saw the video, he was crying, and it was like he was told what to do. He was told to, you need to cry in like a very, I don't want to say dramatic, but it seemed like that it his crying seemed scripted. Like it was like he was told to
Do certain things, yeah?
Yeah, like it was very theatrical. That's the fucking word that I was looking for. But it was like that because he was like raising his arms and like crying, and like his cries were very, I don't know, his actions were very big. Like it's not like if you know you're in trouble, usually you cry silently. Like I can tell that his tears were real, like, and like probably his feeling of like dread was real, but it seemed like he was coached to like act that way, to like be theatrical.
I wouldn't be surprised because even the actual statement itself just sounds off.
Right? This does not sound like an actual confession.
Exactly. I mean, okay, let's say that he did want to steal this shit. It's so specific for him to say, I did this for a certain organization, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's so wild.
It is. It is. And if he was working for the CIA, this wouldn't be what his confession would sound like. And why would he fucking steal a huge ass poster? Anyway, I'll continue. It's so crazy. On March 16, 2016, 'cause after that, by the way, they didn't hear anything from Otto again. Even the US government didn't hear anything from Otto or from the North Korean officials. They wouldn't say anything what was going on. On March 16, 2016, North Korea would later release a grainy... The quality was really bad. It was a CCTV footage of like a shadowy figure removing a framed propaganda poster from a wall in the restricted area of the hotel. And then that was where they claimed that was from the 5th floor. Then they claimed that it was Otto. I saw this CCTV footage and you cannot tell that it's Otto because it's so dark. Because the area where he was taking the poster from was far from the camera. Like it's on like the end of like a short hallway, but it's far from the camera and it's like in the darker part of the hallway. So really it looked like just like a shadow of a figure.
Framed.
We don't know. Because we don't know. They say that it was him, and they said that there was like, I saw like there was like another footage, but I feel like it was edited because it looked like it was Otto alone walking towards a door, and it looked like, I don't know, they can edit shit, or maybe Otto did walk towards that hallway, but the part where he was taking the poster was like, it wasn't, you know how the CCTV footages are, it's usually like continuing, like he walks towards here and walks towards there, like it was like two separate footages, but like the time stamp and like all shit, like the shit were like, oh, this is the time that he went here, and like, and it was from his back, so you can't really see his face when he passed by the door, the one that was like clearer in the footage. But the one where he took the poster, you can't really see his face at all. It was like all shadow. Yeah, you can't tell. And on March 16, 2016, Otto was tried and convicted in North Korea Supreme Court, and he was charged with subversion. And it was, to me, it was an unfair trial because he didn't have a lawyer or anyone with him. It was just him. They didn't even give him like a North Korean lawyer, you know, like he didn't have a representative with him. It was just him and a bunch of soldiers around him.
Is that a normal trial for them, you think? Or was this
apparently it's a thing in North Korea. The court held that he had committed a crime pursuant of the U.S. government's hostile policy toward North Korea in a bid to impair the unity of its people and after entering it as a tourist. The evidence, which apparently lasted an hour, the whole trial only lasted an hour. Regular trials do not last within just an hour, because there has to be like a lot of shit. Anyway, so within the hour, it included his confession, the CCTV footage, the fingerprint evidence, and witness testimony. Otto was identified by his North Korean guide entering the staff-only area. On March 18, KCNA released a brief low-resolution video timestamped 1:15 a.m. showing the footage that I mentioned earlier of the shadowy figure removing the poster and placing it on the wall. And then Otto had indicated in his quote-unquote confession that he had abandoned the poster after discovering it was too large to carry away. So they were jailing him for removing the poster and putting it on the floor. A hotel staff member told the court, "When I got off work, there was nothing amiss, but when I returned, I thought someone had deliberately taken the slogan down, so I mobilized security to prevent damage to it and reported it to the authorities." And then Otto was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. And then after that, there was absolutely no news about Otto after that. It also was hard for the US at the time because it was transitioning from Obama administration to Trump administration. They had to do a lot of different things. They had a lot of laws that they wanted to change and stuff. So that's why it was...
There were other priorities, basically.
Yeah, there were other priorities.
Government. Fuck.
Yeah, that's why the news about Otto isn't as big as it's supposed to be because of the transition to... On June 6, North Korean officials had advised U.S. State Department Special Representative Joseph Yun that Otto had contracted foodborne botulism shortly after his sentencing and had fallen into a coma after taking a sleeping pill. A delegation headed by Yun flew to Pyongyang to oversee Otto's repatriation. After 17 months in prison, Otto had apparently fell into a comatose state. But they were able to finally make an arrangement with North Korea, and they were able to get Otto. On the day that Otto left, the American officials took Otto from North Korea, was also the day that Dennis Rodman visited North Korea for the 5th time. So they believe that it was like kind of, they did it on purpose to like distract the people from what was happening. Because I remember...
The timings, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember at that time too that the news about Dennis Rodman in North Korea was bigger. Like, I heard about him going there for the 5th time, but I have no idea about Otto at all. So I think they did it on purpose. And Dennis Rodman's visit there was like to encourage sports towards their youth. So that's why they invited him, you know. But there are theories that they did it on purpose to, you know, revert the attention. And I actually believe that.
I do too.
Cindy Warmbier, Otto's mom, when Otto arrived, she was prepared for her son to be changed because he was in prison in North Korea and his sentence was hard labor. But he did not expect Otto to be what she saw. Otto's arms and legs were totally deformed, according to his parents, to Otto's parents. He had long, wavy, not really long, but he had long-ish hair. It had been buzzed off, so it was short. It was like close. The cut was like close to his head. It was really short, buzzed off. You guys know what that is. Why am I explaining it? And then there was a feeding tube infiltrated in his nostrils. And Fred, Otto's dad said that it looked like someone had taken a pair of pliers and rearranged his bottom teeth. After seeing Otto's sister had to leave the plane screaming because she couldn't take what she was like seeing. I saw like the footage of the people carrying Otto out because they didn't have a stretcher for them to roll him down the ramp, so they had to carry his arms and legs. He did look different. His hair was short and he did have like I thought it was like an oxygen tube, but it was apparently a feeding tube.
Yeah.
His eyes were closed in the picture, but his parents say that his eyes were wide open, but it was blank. So the paramedics, as I said earlier, carried him by his armpits and his legs and loaded him into the ambulance. And then they had to bring him to Cincinnati Medical Center. He was in a state of unresponsive wakefulness, and he was in a persistent vegetative state. He was able to breathe on his own and blink his eyes, but he did not show signs of awareness of his environment. He didn't show signs of him understanding language or initiating any purposeful movement. So basically,
he was in a coma.
Yeah, brain dead. That's like the more famous term. Brain dead. Medical records from North Korea show that Otto had been in the States since April 2016, 1 month after his conviction. And during his release, the North Koreans provided a disc containing 2 MRI brain scans dated April and June 2016, showing no damage to the brain. According to his medical team, brain scans revealed Otto had suffered extensive loss of brain tissue throughout his brain, consisted with cardiopulmonary event that caused his brain to be deprived of oxygen. Doctors also say that they don't know what caused the cardiac arrest, but it would have been triggered by a respiratory arrest, while a neurointensive care specialist at the Cincinnati Medical Hospital stated that there was no evidence indicating botulism. His doctors found no evidence of physical abuse of torture. Scans of Otto's neck and head were normal aside from the brain injury. They added that we didn't see any evidence of healing fractures or healed fractures that would have been within the time frame, and that they also believe that for somebody who had been bedridden for more than a year, his body was in excellent condition and that his skin was in excellent condition too. Otto's father, Fred, held a press conference on June 15 but declined to answer a reporter's question as to whether or not the neurological injury was caused by an assault, saying that he would let the doctors make the determination. He also stated that his family, they don't believe anything the North Koreans told them, and he expressed his anger at the North Koreans for his son's condition, saying there is no excuse for any civilized nation to have kept his condition a secret and denied him top-notch medical care for so long. I do agree with that. Like, he had been in a coma for a year and they never mentioned
They didn't even tell their family.
Yeah. Or like the American government, you know.
For sure, yeah.
It's so fucking crazy. After his parents requested his feeding tube to be removed, Otto eventually died at the hospital at 2:20 p.m. on June 19, 2017, at the age of 22. His family issued a statement expressing their sadness, thanking the hospital staff for their actions. And at the request of Otto's family, an autopsy wasn't performed. Only a post-mortem external examination was conducted. Doctors speculated that the cause of death could have been a blood clot or pneumonia or sepsis or kidney failure. Sleeping pills could have caused Otto to stop breathing if he had botulism and was paralyzed from it. So the doctors do consider the excuse that the North Koreans gave, like the botulism and him. But why would they feed him sleeping pills, though? I
Exactly. Unless you're trying to kill somebody.
Right.
I have a feeling
It's
that
so crazy.
it's a very tactical move for them to return the person in that state, because then he wouldn't be able to tell anyone what happened to him.
Exactly. That's what everyone is saying, and I totally agree.
For sure.
The University of Cincinnati doctors found no evidence of botulism. So there are two arguing theories that they do accept the possibility that he had botulism, but they couldn't find evidence of botulism. But several neurologists said that botulism cannot be ruled out given the length of time before Otto was returned to the US. So they can't really determine. So that's why they're still considering the possibility. GQ journalist Doug Bach Clark suggested that Otto may have attempted suicide sometime after his sentencing, which I doubt that to be true because, you know, if you're from the US, it's a very powerful country. You're hopeful that they can still save you. So, you know, I don't think that there's a possibility of him attempting suicide after his sentencing. Kim Dong-chul, a Korean-American businessman detained in North Korea at the same time as Otto, claims that he saw a young American man, presumably Otto, almost fainting, being dragged across a hallway by investigators with his head and face soaked with water. Kim suggested that Otto may have been a victim of water torture because during his interrogation, he himself had suffered similar treatment during, you know, he was in captivity in North Korea. A funeral for Otto was held on June 22, 2017 at Wyoming High School, and more than 2,500 mourners attended. And he is currently buried in Oak Hill Cemetery in Glendale, Ohio, and students tied ribbons on every tree and pole along the 3-mile route taken by the funeral procession from the high school to the cemetery. And that's the mysterious death of Otto Warmbier.
I have so many questions for this. First off, what exactly did he do for them to keep him there? And
Yes.
also, what the fuck did they do while he was there?
Exactly. I don't know if he said something or, you know, did something for them to start speculating that he was sent by the CIA or like the secret Z Society from University of Virginia.
Yeah.
We don't know. All I know is that if that hotel employee saw the poster on the floor and he called the authorities, the hotel would be put on lockdown right away if it was true. Because they're
right.
very, you know, they would look for whoever did it right away and they would detain Otto right away. But none of the people who were in that hotel, they weren't, you know, detained. They weren't questioned. None of them, they were able to like go
there was no
freely.
commotion on the day that it actually happened.
Yeah, I feel like they just started formulating theories in their head when they found out that he was from University of Virginia. They like probably made up the story that he was like from a secret society. And by the way, they keep on like pushing the narrative that he was acting in behalf of the Methodist Church in his hometown when he's not even Methodist. He's Jewish. So why would he be doing shit for like another community, you know? That's so crazy. I feel like they were just creating conspiracy theories just to like blame him for doing something. I don't know what he did or what he said to trigger them.
What if it was actually someone who was working? Okay, guys, this is all theory. This is all my opinion. But what if it was one of the staff there that actually did it and then he felt like he was almost caught, so he or she almost got caught, and then the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, there's an American here, let's put the blame on that guy because it's an easy bait.
Probably. Also, I would consider that. Another theory that I have too is that the whole video was staged, because first of all, you know that poster is too big for you to carry home. Why would you take it in the first place and then just leave it there?
Exactly.
If you had plans and then realized, oh shit, this is too big, you would return it. You wouldn't just put it down on the floor.
Yeah.
I feel like they fucking directed that whole thing because they were like, oh shit, we need to have an excuse as to why we're like detaining this kid. I just feel like they just had suddenly this conspiracy theory that they couldn't justify. Like, I feel like they had this theory that he was a secret agent, and then they couldn't justify that it was just a theory, so they made up the whole thing, and they staged that footage.
Yeah. And I also feel like if Otto really did do something, not necessarily steal or whatever, but if he did something wrong, Danny is the name of his buddy, right?
Roommate.
Danny would have probably seen nervousness in his face when the soldiers came to get him, because then you would immediately think, oh shit, they know, right? But it seems to me that he had no idea what was going on.
Yeah. And he even laughed off when Danny said, this will be the last we'll see of you. Like,
yeah.
Also, what a dick thing to say, though.
He's
Danny.
British. Their humor is
yeah.
pretty dark.
I appreciate your humor, but this isn't the place.
I wonder how he felt like after he realized that.
He regretted it, actually, because I saw like his interview. He was like, shit, that was such a bad thing to say to somebody. He regretted it after saying that shit. And when he like saw like the footage of Otto like pleading, confessing, and he was also asked if he believes, like, if he's like talked to his other like tour mates, if they believe that he did it, and they were all like, no, in no way that Otto would do it, because he seemed like he was like the person who would follow rules. So they don't believe the whole narrative of him stealing. So I feel like he was forced to confess. They probably told him, you need to confess or we'll, kill your family or whatever, or like we'll torture you. So that's why he confessed.
I also don't think he's the type to go against them. Like, it wouldn't take a lot to coerce him to confess if they asked him to, because I feel like he was the type to just be like, okay, I'll do whatever you want, I just want to go home.
Exactly. Which is, I think that's why they chose him. And there's also this very interesting theory that I read on Reddit, because months after the whole thing with Otto, Kim Jong-un's brother was killed in Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and they used the VX nerve, which is like a very illegal thing to do. So the US had to sanction North Korea, and the theory in Reddit is that they had already planned on like killing his brother using the VX nerve agent, and that's why they had to keep a hostage so that America couldn't the theory was different. That would be a good theory too, to test it. But the theory on Reddit was that they took him as like kind of like a hostage so that America couldn't put a bigger sanction against North Korea for using the VX nerve agent. So they kind of like took imprisoned Otto as like an insurance so that they won't be punished further so that the punishment won't be bigger than it was supposed to be, because they still need to negotiate Otto's release.
That's intense, man.
That's
My
like
brain
politics.
right now is like,
But that's also a good theory that they probably tested it on him.
because I mean, he got sick.
Yeah. Exactly. And like, remember in our Shinrikyo episode, like, if you can't mix the nerve agent properly, the effects would be less severe. Like, you remember that?
Yeah.
So maybe they weren't able to, like, I don't know, mix it properly at the time, and they were using it on Otto. That's why he went into a coma instead of, like, you know, getting the actual outcome that they wanted.
Yeah. I also really don't think that his illness just happened out of coincidence. It's too convenient for them.
Exactly. It's so crazy. Anyway, if you guys know anything about this, or if you have other theories that you want to discuss about Otto's case or somebody else's case, because they have a lot of prisoners up there in North Korea. They're like collecting. I don't want to be one of them. So you guys, let's not go to North Korea.
I don't think it's worth it. Let's just listen to stories about them. It's safer that way.
Yeah. If you're in a country that's friends with North Korea, then go ahead, you can visit them. But if you're from America or in a country that's not allies with North Korea, maybe not.
Actually,
don't go there.
Even the countries that are allies with North Korea are a bit more careful about it, because I remember, especially when COVID just started, even South Koreans and the Chinese told their citizens to not go there because they would just shoot you if they think you have COVID.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they don't believe in like, to them, for you to not infect someone is for you to just, like, go away. Literally.
Maybe that's what they mean by Korean style.
I just wanted it to be about food.
Yeah. Guys, let us know if you know more. If I forgot to mention some stuff that you want me to discuss, please let us know. You can message us at Creepy Convos on Twitter and Facebook, and the Creepy Conversations on Instagram, and submit any stories that you want us to cover on creepyconversations.com.
Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe to us on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to your podcast to. I almost mumbled the words there. Oh, and if you would like to see the videos for this and exclusive content, subscribe to us on patreon.com/creepyconvos. And thanks for creeping, you fucking creeper.
And remember, the government, literally the government, is always watching you. North Korea could be listening to us right now.
I know, right?
Guys, please. I don't want to say we love you, but we just want to be at peace with you.
We're fine here.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not gonna get anything from us. So yeah, government is always watching you. Bye.